What's up, gamers? Dan here from BeAGameCharacter.com, back with another edition of Q&A Tuesday. I'm happy to have you here with me, and let's go ahead and jump right into the questions. Now, last week's question for you folks was, what is the biggest mental barrier that you've had to overcome in your life? So I'm looking forward to seeing what those are and learn a little bit more about you guys. So we're going to start off with BenRex77. BenRex77 says, "Hello, Dan." Hello. "I broke my biggest mental barrier about a year ago. When I started my apprenticeship, I got my own computer for the first time. I started watching Let's Plays, animes, and a bunch of other videos, but because I did it when I should have learned for school, I kept it a secret from my family and my friends at school. About 2 years ago, I decided I'd tell it to my friends and family. I planned it for over a year and really did it the chosen date." So that's interesting. So basically, what you're saying is that you were doing stuff like you started an apprenticeship. This is what I'm gathering here. But you started an apprenticeship and you got your own computer, but you did it instead of doing what you were supposed to be doing for your apprenticeship and for school. That's what I'm gathering here, if I understand correctly. And that you decided to keep it a secret from your family and your friends, which is interesting. I mean, and you know, whenever you find yourself keeping a secret from people that you know and love and that know and love you is generally a good sign that there's probably something going on that should not be going on. And, you know, I mean, most people know that intrinsically, but you don't necessarily spell it out to yourself. So if you find yourself hiding something from the people that you know, love, and care about you, and the people that are like, oh, these are my people, these are the people that will love and support me in all that I do, you might want to do that mental check and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't be doing this if I'm feeling so much, you know, shame and whatnot for it. So that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. And I like that. Thanks for sharing. And I'm glad that you did eventually decide to let people know and you know, kind of reach out. So that's good. BenRex continues on, says, "Sometimes I wonder what other people think about the questions they ask themselves. Can you, at the end of every video ask two questions, one of your own choice, one of the questions of the viewers?" And now the question for you: how important is education for an individual person and for an entire country? All right, so in response to the first point, I think that would be interesting. Two questions. Now, I will say part of the rule of thumb that, you know, that they say when you're interacting with people in general online is to give them just one actionable point instead of two. But I think it might be interesting to, in the future on these videos, if I like, if there's a particularly provocative question that a viewer asks me, I might use that for the question at the end of the video instead of the one that I have planned going in. So that's cool. That's an interesting idea. I appreciate that. And now the question for me, as far as how important education is for an individual person, for an entire country, super, super, super important. I can't even tell you how much I value education over just about everything else when it comes to reforming a person, when it comes to reforming a country, when it comes to improving anything in general, like overall improvement, you know, like there are very, very, very few things that education does not help. Education helps with just about everything that is good for humanity. So I'm going to say for an individual person and for an entire country, education is easily within the top 5, possibly the top 3, maybe should be the number 1 priority at all times. Acquiring information, synthesizing new information, researching stuff, learning new things, becoming generally more proficient at stuff in the world, like that is super important. And not to go political here, but I'm going to go mildly political and just say, you know, terrorism is a big thing in the world right now, and that, you know, what terrorists are most afraid of is women and children being educated on just general what's going on in the world, being educated in general maths and sciences and stuff like that. You look at Malala Yousafzai, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. I may be wrong on that. She was shot in the head because she was a girl attending school. Just let that sink in for a second. That was the reason she was shot. She was a young girl who had the audacity to think that she could be educated, that she deserved knowledge. And that's huge. That is enormous. And that's an indicator of what we need more of in the world is people becoming educated, more knowledgeable about the world at large, other cultures, the basic maths and sciences, obviously, reading and whatnot. And as you look through human history, any time that we expand the realm of education, we expand our own capabilities as a species. I mean, you go back to medieval times when only priests and whatnot could read, like you had a generally uneducated populace. As soon as the printing press brought widespread books to the world and expanded knowledge, look at the explosion that we had of technology, of human advancement, of cultural advancement. So I ranting now. I'm going to turn this off. But basically, education, one of the most important things, if not the most important thing to the human condition, in my opinion. So thank you, Benrex, for Benny. Have a nice week, Benny. For an awesome comment in general. We're what, 5 minutes already? We spent 5 minutes already just going over that. So that's awesome. Thank you. Moving on, we have Your Name, who says, the biggest mental barrier for me to overcome was the motivation to go to the gym when I was first starting. Now, that's cool. I loved Terry Crews. You know Terry Crews. If you don't know Terry Crews, he's the big beefy bodybuilder guy that they use for the Old Spice commercials. He's also at lots of comedies and stuff. He's a very, very funny guy. Great actor, also a really great person. But one of the things that he talked about, he did an AMA on Reddit, Ask Me Anything on Reddit a little while ago. And one of the things he talked about, somebody asked him, how do you get involved in going down to the gym? And he said, this is great. He said, don't worry about working out when you go to the gym. He said, get the membership and just go. He said, go to the gym and find a chair to sit in and read a magazine. Play a game on your phone, read a book, listen to music, whatever. Go to the gym and just do something you enjoy. Don't even work out. Just start going to the gym and go to the gym every day at the same time and just do something you enjoy. It doesn't have to be working out. And he said because you want to be happy at the gym before you even start working out at the gym. Now that of course doesn't apply to all gyms. Not all, but if you go to like an LA Fitness or something like that, like that's the thing is you can do that. It's huge. Nobody cares what you're doing, whatever. If you go to like some relatively small mom and pop gym, you might get some weird looks and whatnot and, whatever. But also in those situations, there's usually a lot more one-on-one interaction. So you can kind of stay motivated and positive that way. But I loved that answer is just go to the gym and have a good time and worry about working out later. But first of all, turn it into a place that you enjoy being. So that's cool. Biggest mental barrier to overcome was the motivation to go to the gym, which is interesting. I'd love to hear more about how you overcame that barrier too, if you want, in the comments. So my question for you, Dan, is what form of cardio would be best for fighters? And on a side note, you should upload a video of your lifting routine. So, best cardio for fighters is to become a mixed cardio specialist. Obviously, there's two different styles of cardio. There's usually high intensity cardio, and then there's low intensity cardio. Low intensity would be, you're just also referred to as steady state cardio, going out and running for half an hour, or at a nice even pace. You're not sprinting; you just go and run for half an hour. And a high intensity version of that would be something like Tabata interval sprints, which is where you sprint for 20 seconds as fast as you can, and then you rest for 10 seconds, and you repeat that, for a total of 4 minutes as a traditional Tabata interval. So in fighting, you need both. You need to have steady state and you need to have high intensity because steady state promotes anaerobic cardiovascular fitness. Steady state promotes aerobic cardiovascular fitness, whereas high intensity helps to promote anaerobic. And aerobic is aerobic is you got lots of oxygen in your blood, and anaerobic is you have very little oxygen in your blood. And both of those situations exist in a fighting situation, especially in something like mixed martial arts, where you're going for 5-minute rounds, especially the championship year 5-minute rounds. Where you have stuff where you're just kind of generally moving around and whatnot, and you need to be able to recover from short bursts of very high intensity activity, throwing a flurry of punches and kicks, trying to work something out on the ground, trying to choke somebody out, trying to escape from a choke, something like that. So you need both. So my recommendation would be a mix of long-form cardio, performed probably at least 3 times a week, if not more than that, and high-intensity cardio performed at least 2 times a week, if not more than that. And there's a whole bunch of different exercises you could do for that. There's a bunch over on the blog. You can go look them up on YouTube. Just look up high-intensity cardio or steady-state cardio. And generally, steady-state cardio is just simple stuff like jogging or riding a bike, something like that. Whereas high intensity is stuff like burpees, sprints, things that you do in very short bursts but use a lot of effort. So, great question. Thanks for your name. And as far as uploading a video of my lifting routine, I agree. And I actually just got, ooh, let me show it. Hang on. I'm going to go over here. I just got a new camera. It's I'm very excited for it. Literally just came in last night. So I'm going to be starting to do more video content for the channel beyond just these little webcam videos. And definitely uploading my own fitness routine and other fitness routines, definitely a priority. So you're right. I should, and I will. Thanks, Dan. Bring peace out to the world and into your mind. That phrase sounds familiar. I feel like I know it from somewhere, but regardless, I like it. That's a good phrase. Moving on, we've got S. Barnier West, and I think I know this guy. Biggest mental barrier, actually being able to improve in tasks. We are our own hardest critics, whether it's been in karate, track and field, backyard sports, or my weight training. The concept of allowing myself to believe that I can improve has been and still is my biggest barrier. Absolutely. I can sympathize and not sympathize. I can empathize with that very much because it's something that basically everybody feels to some extent. It goes by a lot of different names. If you're somebody that's offering a service as a professional, it goes by the name imposter syndrome, where like, am I really qualified to be doing this? Like, who says I can teach this? Who says I can do this job? I feel like an imposter. So imposter syndrome is a very real thing, and that's one way of putting it. But, you also see it in art. They say artists and writers are their own worst critics. You're always your own worst critic, at least at first. You need to, I believe a big part of being successful in life is learning how to support yourself and be confident in yourself. So, yeah, that's a huge mental barrier, and it's something that everybody struggles with all the time, including myself. So, and the thing is, don't be fooled. This does not just go for Barnier, but don't be fooled. Everybody has some level of that. No matter how successful they are, no matter how on top of the world they are, everybody has some level of that self-doubt going on. Now, a lot of people have learned to manage it better, and a lot of people have learned how to, kind of deal with it, turn it off, turn it on, and whatnot, but everybody's got that level of self-doubt going on. Question for you. Andleton, Jake, and I know who these people are. Andleton, Jake, and I had a conversation the other day on the differences between noses and snouts. For instance, a dog, nose or snout, or both. Humans have noses, I understand that. Pigs, snouts. What about other animals like dogs and deer? Is this similar to the all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squared? Anteaters, what do they have? Other interesting animals? Whales, they have a blowhole, but they also have noses. Please help. So, I would personally say, not all animals have noses. I believe in order for it to qualify as a nose, you have to be able to smell. I don't think that whales smell with their blowholes, so I don't think that counts as a nose. Whether or not they have a nose, I'm not sure. I'm not that up on whale physiology. I don't know if they can smell, or if they're like, I don't know, like snakes that don't really smell things. They kind of sense it with their tongue, with the Jacobson's organ that's in the roof of their mouth. In regards to snouts versus nose, I would say a snout has to be longer than it is wide. So basically humans have noses because our nose structure is basically usually about as wide as it is long. Now granted, there are people with huge noses, but I don't think it would be fair to say that they have snouts. I believe a snout has to be inherently part of the facial structure. Like if you drew like somebody's face out, like you could say that they had a snout, I guess. So I would say that dog has a snout and that it has a nose on the end of its snout. So I can't believe I'm going this in depth into this, but anything that smells has a nose. Some things that have noses at the end of snouts. So it would be all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares, in that all things that smell have noses, but not all things that have noses have snouts. And that's as far as I'm going with that. Oh, and anteaters, they have snouts. Going there, putting my flag in that right there. That's it. Thank you for the question. Mohammed Kanoon says, "Hey Dan, sorry for not being around. That's okay. Don't apologize. Just be around more often. You know, it's okay. I forgive you, but don't let it happen again." I've been forgetting to ask you a question after watching your vids. My biggest mental barrier was if I should continue martial arts. I lost fights, both serious and for play, and I got fed up and thought I should quit, but I didn't. Instead, I continued, and although my small frame, I have gotten a lot better. And to address that, martial arts gives you an edge. It doesn't give you an auto win card. And it also depends on what martial art you're studying, how complete the art is, and what kind of training you undergo in that martial art. So if you find yourself in a similar situation to Muhammad, and Muhammad, I am glad that you stuck with it. That's excellent. Sometimes just sticking with it is all you really need to do to find success. In fact, very often just sticking with it is all you need to do to find success. But if you find yourself in a similar situation to Muhammad, I would not say stop doing martial arts, but maybe reconsider the martial arts that you're doing, or at least the training methods that you're undergoing. And also realize that, again, martial arts is not an auto-win card. If you put a guy with lots of martial arts training up against somebody who's a lot bigger and stronger with no martial arts training, that person who's bigger and stronger still has a very good chance of winning that fight. If you put people of equal training against each other, but one of them is bigger and stronger, that bigger and stronger person almost definitely has a better chance of winning that fight. Unless the smaller person is significantly smarter, like in a tactical sense. And beyond that, a lot of fights have a whole lot of random elements to them as well, especially street fights. There's a lot of randomness that you can't take into account. So while I am a very seasoned martial artist, I've been doing it since I was 3, and I definitely advocate that everybody learns a martial art and becomes very proficient in it. I will say it's not a silver bullet. You can still lose, especially to larger opponents or better trained opponents, or both. And you can't expect to win every fight that you're in, no matter how good you are. You can definitely get better, and you will perpetually improve. And having martial arts experience is always better than not having martial arts experience. But it's not an auto-win card. So that's a mental barrier to get past, definitely. My question is, as a martial artist when working out, should I separate my workout through the day by splitting it in parts of the body? One day legs, one day back and tries, one day chest and buys, or should I work out all areas instead? I'm constantly getting told that what I am doing is not effective, and I will see little result of doing so. So there's different schools of thought here. If you are looking to develop strength and power, just strength and power, training different muscle groups is best. Because by training an individual muscle group, you're using all of your body's energy, both mental and physical reserves, for that one muscle group that day. So you always get better performance out of that muscle group than you would if you worked out all your muscle groups at once. So you will increase the upper reaches of that specific muscle group just, way more than if you were to work out your whole body at once. However, and this goes back to the cardiovascular question before, training multiple muscle groups all at once, like a circuit training type setup where you do, you're basically train your whole body at once in one workout, you're going to build up more overall endurance and conditioning. So for a martial artist, you need kind of a mix of both. I would recommend always doing your legs, at least, on their own specific day. Like, I would always have a leg day that is individual from everything else, because your legs and also your core, which gets the most work on leg day typically from squats and stuff like that, your legs are your source of power for basically everything you do in martial arts. It's your base. It's what you build everything on. So leg day I would always do individually. As far as the rest of your body goes, I would try and do a mix, honestly. I would do probably individual muscle group training, maybe say 4 days a week. And then I would do at least 1 day worth of circuit training every week with not necessarily even weights, but perhaps body weight type workouts. And it also depends on what arena you're looking to compete in. So if you're looking to do like mixed martial arts type stuff, I would say do like a powerlifting regimen, maybe 3 days a week, and then do like a general circuit training regimen once a week, and then fill in the rest of your days with practical training focuses, and do a little practical training focus every day. Practical training, I mean like sparring, bag work, mat work, rolling, stuff like that. So that would be my recommendation. And again, you speak about seeing little results. Think about the results that you want. Do you want to do better in a fight? Do you want to look better outside of the fight? Because those are not necessarily the same things. My second question is, do you put the milk in first, then the cereal, or the cereal, then the milk? I put the cereal in first, and then I add the milk. Because anything else is just sacrilege. Finally, our last one. This is a long one. Our last question, our last comment, is from Nicholas Prince. Hello, Nicholas. Love the live boldly stuff at the end. Me too. That's why I say it. Hardest thing for me to overcome is staying on track for a long period of time for my goals. I get bored after a few months, and it's left me as a jack of all trades and master of none sort of guy. That's not necessarily always a bad thing. Like, having experience in a whole lot of arenas is very, very good. But you do want to have at least one thing that you are exceptionally good at least one skill set that you are exceptionally, above and beyond good at. And it should be something that you are naturally drawn to anyway. They say that passion breeds success, but success also breeds passion. If you're not good at it to start out, you're not going to enjoy. I mean, if you don't have, obviously nobody's great at something when they first start, but if you say, just for an example, if you want to learn juggling, if you're like, I want to become the best juggler in the world, and you start juggling and you kind of hate it, and also you're really bad at it, like, you're not going to get anywhere with juggling. There's no reason to devote your self-discipline reserves to that. It's just, why? But if you start out in juggling and you don't really enjoy it, but it turns out you're really, really good at it, as you continue to be good at it, you're going to start to enjoy it more and more and more. And it's just a natural thing, especially if you can find some way to use it to breed success elsewhere in your life. Like, if you are good at it, but you don't really enjoy it that much, but you discover that people love it when you can juggle random objects at parties, like, all of a sudden that's your party trick, and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. People like it when I juggle. If you're really good at juggling and you discover that you're really good at teaching other people to juggle, all of a sudden you say, hey, I could teach other people to juggle. And that's rewarding in itself, but also maybe I could charge for teaching people how to juggle. And if you are really good at juggling and you discover that, maybe you want to start a YouTube channel with juggling, and that, again, in itself is rewarding, and also you can make money at it. So you get what I'm talking about here is basically, if you are naturally drawn towards something, and we all have our own natural talents. If you're naturally drawn to something and you're already inherently a little bit good at it, it's a lot easier to put in the work to get great at it. So that would be my advice to you for as far as staying on track for some of your goals. And there's also a whole bunch of other stuff that comes into staying on track, but that's an initial bit of advice for you there. And getting bored doesn't happen as often if you're good at something and still continually improving. So question is, what sort of dieting do you prefer, and what is your nerdiest hobby? All right. What sort of dieting I prefer? I hate to call it dieting. I like to eat food. So dieting that I prefer is figuring out how many calories I need to eat in a day to accomplish my goals. Over this past winter, I was bulking. I wanted to gain some weight. I wanted to build my muscles up a bit. So I figured out I need to be eating around 3,000 calories a day in order to reliably put on weight. So I was like, okay, well, 3,000 calories, there's my number. I don't want to go too over that or I'll get fat. But I don't want to go too under that or I won't gain weight. So then I had 3,000 calories and I just logged all my food. Downloaded MyFitnessPal onto my phone. Download it if you don't have it. And logged my food and said, oh, well, I hit my 3,000 calories today. That's it. I would plan my days in advance. I'd say, you know what? I'd really like some chocolate cake with dinner. So I'm going to plug that in first. And then we'll work our way back and figure out how many calories I've got left to factor into my day. Losing weight. Right now I'm cutting weight. I was at 213. I'm down to 202 as of today. So that's 11 pounds down. I did backslide a bit for about half a month there, so I'm not as far along as I should be. I was actually almost a full month. So not as far along as I should be. A whole bunch of factors went into that. But again, it's the same idea. So right now I'm working on around 2,100 to 2,200 calories a day is my calorie budget for losing weight at the rate that I want to lose it at. So because of that, I've got my budget. I've got 2,200 calories. So again, I pick out first of all the foods that I want to eat that day. I'm like, you know what? I really enjoy having ramen with a little bit of egg in it, and that's just something I enjoy. So that'll be the first meal that I put on my day. So I put that into MyFitnessPal and I figure out, oh, well, it's around 400 calories, a little more than. So I've got 400 calories, that's gone. So let's start factoring the rest of my day. And then I'm like, well, I'm looking to maintain muscle mass, so I want to make sure that I'm getting at least 180 grams of protein a day. So I go, okay, well, what foods do I need to eat to get 180 grams of protein? And this sounds complicated, but once you do it for a day or two, you all of a sudden just realize, like, oh, okay, well, these are the foods that I can eat most regularly to hit my goals. So that's the thing, is that I hate dieting as in like restricting myself from certain foods and not being able to eat what I want. I prefer just to look at the calories that I need and say, hey, I need X calories, so I will eat X food. And if I want chocolate cake and I still want to lose weight, I'll eat this amount of it so I make sure I still lose weight. Or I will skip having this one food so I can have this other food. Second question, what is my nerdiest hobby? Oh. I would say probably my nerdiest hobby would be bird watching. I love bird watching. I can identify almost any bird that is native to my region in the Northeast. A lot of them, almost all of them on sight. A lot of them even by their call, like what noise they make. Like I can tell you if I'm listening, if I'm in the middle of the woods and I just, we hear birds, I can be like, oh, that's a pileated woodpecker. That is, in fact, a nuthatch over there. Now we hear a chickadee, but chickadees are easy because everybody knows chickadees. Or I could be like, oh, yeah, that over there, that is most definitely a bluebird. And so I can pick out, so I would say that's particularly nerdy, and I realize it's not like electronics video gamer nerdy, but I think that makes it even nerdier because there's really not that much more that's nerdier than bird watching. I would say programming, maybe, except I don't like programming that much. I can program, but I don't like programming that much. So I would say bird watching would be my nerdiest hobby. So excellent questions, Nicholas. And this is quite possibly, I think, one of the longest Q&A Tuesdays that we've had, which is great because it means that you guys gave me some really interesting and thought-provoking stuff to talk about, and like snouts versus noses, and really interesting questions to answer. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So let's move on to your question. Let me bring up, I wrote it down here so I can remember it. So, question for you for next week that you need to answer. Out of the following three things, if you had to pick just one to start getting better at today, which one would you pick? Would you like to learn faster, as in like absorb knowledge faster, learn new skills faster, retain knowledge faster? So learn faster. Become more self-disciplined, so stay on task, make sure you maintain positive habits, stick with that plan that you set for yourself. Or stay positive and more mentally durable, as in you can roll with the punches better, you can stay in a better mood easier, you're that optimist, you're the person that does not get down even if bad stuff happens to you. So, learn faster, become more self-disciplined, or become more positive and mentally durable. Those are your three options. Which one would you pick? And give me a little bit as to why as well. So I want to know which of those you would pick, and then give me a little info as to why you would like to pick that one thing. Real world circumstances or whatever you got going on. So let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to ask me a question or two that I can answer as well in the next video. Thank you for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe, and as always, remember to live boldly, change the world, and continue to be awesome. Bye-bye.